Hey, Alexandra. Thank you so much for your submission and especially for this writing. This is really valuable stuff here. I learned a lot reading your writing. I learned a lot about what you're learning, and this is fantastic. Now, you'll hear me say this several times between now and the end of the class, but the learning objectives of this class is not all tangible technique. So it's not all, okay, this is what you do with this image, this is how you treat this animation, this is how you approach this layout, etc. A lot of it is intangible learning objectives, like, for example, understanding limitations of specific images in their intended use. An example of that, it has to do with what you're writing here, is saying about, okay, so this image might work in a magazine ad, but it certainly is going to need some attention in a banner ad. And that is really important. That's one of the intangible learning outcomes of this class. I think is to be able to look at specific images and specific assets and understand the possibilities and the limitations of their use in different media. For example, magazine versus web banner. So that's really, really super important stuff. Thank you so much for including that. I was really pleased to read that. Okay, the banner looks fantastic. Really clean. Nice work. I'm okay with the animation of the logo, but I just want to bring this to your attention. Quite often, as you get into design, you get deeper into design, you get more experience, you start having access to other more detailed branding style guides. Now, Amethyst Bay branding style guide is pretty straightforward in that the only real restrictions we have are logo usage, color, and typography. So in a typical corporate branding style guide, you're going to have many, many, many pages of restrictions and many pages of required usage. And quite typically, required usage section in a typical corporate style guide having to do with the logo alone could be 10 or 15 pages long, sometimes longer. And one of those restrictions is maintaining the brand strategy. And one of those things that you could quite typically see are many, many different presentation placement and proximity restrictions having to do with the logo itself. So deconstructing the logo like this, you could quite possibly in many instances see that there would be a restriction to the branding guidelines of a given corporation. So, but there's nothing about that in this style guide. So I just wanted to mention that just so you know that that's a possibility. So my only other recommendation here is I think it's smart that you left the headline static. As this comes in, I would do this. I would try to time this so that this starts fading. I want you to fade this call to action and see how it just blinks in. That's a little abrupt, especially promoting such a relaxed feel, right? So instead of having that just pop in, I want you to see that where that logo starts its animation and it starts getting darker, moving across the screen. Start this animation the same time the logo starts, so they both appear at the same time. However, I'm not saying that this should appear like that, blink in, but this should start fading in now when the animation, with the logo animation starts, and then have it fade into full opacity by the time the logo reaches its destination. Do you see what I'm saying? So right now it would be like this. Okay, so all we would have is that, and then this starts to fade in and get darker, full fade, full opacity by the time the logo completes its loop. Then the whole thing disappears and the loop starts over again. So I want you to time the fading of the call to action with the progression of the mark moving closer towards the logo. And I think that's really going to improve the page mechanics itself. It's also going to kind of tone down the that way that abruptly pops in. And the fade in will definitely be more cohesive with the relaxed nature of the promotion. All right, good job. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to let me know. Thank you very much. Good job.